watching a video on how plants transport nutrients, oxygen, CO2, and water throughout their bodies, basically. So, we've talked about the human body and we've talked about how we're able to move oxygen, how we're able to absorb food, and where it goes, and what systems are involved with that. We're going to do a small lesson on how plants are able to do that because plants need to be able to move nutrients, move oxygen, move carbon dioxide throughout their body to survive, just like how we need to move gases and fluids and nutrients around our body to survive. They do it in a little different way, though. So, this lesson will have quite a few terms, and these terms will appear again in later studies, so I highly recommend you review this. So, as you know, plants need water in all of their cells, right? Every living thing needs water. But how do plants move that water to where it's needed? Especially in massive plants like trees, right? Water hits the ground, and so, yeah, if it rains, the bottom parts of the plant may get all the water, right? But how does the water get from here all the way up here? That seems to defy the laws of gravity. So we'll be talking about that. So, plants, vein and arteries. Plants have vascular tissue, just like us, but we don't call them veins and arteries. And their job is to move water and sugar throughout the plant. So there are three types of vascular tissue in plants. Kind of like how there's three types of vascular tissue in humans, right? In humans, we have arteries, we have veins, and we have capillaries. In plants, we have root hairs, xylem, and phloem. Right? So this is a picture of xylem. We got and phloem on the outside of the xylem, and we also have a picture of root hairs. Not this is the root. The hairs are these thin, hair-like structures. So we'll be talking about each of these. Right? I should probably move the picture over, but yeah. So we have root hairs over here, xylem, phloem over here in these pictures. So root hairs, starting from the bottom. So root hairs are very small extensions of roots, and their job is to absorb the water from the soil. So when it rains, or if there's a river nearby or something, if there's water in the ground, right, the root hairs will absorb that water because there's a lot of water here. There's a ton of water on the outside, right? So we have a high concentration here, and just through diffusion, because there's a low concentration of water here, the water will be pulled and move into the cell, right? And over time, that water will move up the plant, right? So in the soil, you have this high concentration of water, and in the plant cell, or in the root hair, you have a low concentration of water relative to the outside. So you would say that the cell is hypotonic of water to the outside. And so the water will move from high concentration on the outside, right, to low concentration inside. And the plant maintains a low concentration as water is being siphoned back up the plant. So root hair's job is to absorb water from the soil. So water moves into the root hairs through osmosis. Right? I said diffusion, I should have said osmosis. Right? So it moves through the water moves through the root hairs through osmosis. Because again, in the plant cell, there is that semi-permeable membrane. There's that membrane, that cell membrane. And so the dirt doesn't get through. Right? The dirt doesn't get through. The dirt can't get in. But the water can. So the water will flow through from high concentration to low concentration and move into the root hair. So water moves through the root hair through osmosis, and it's moving from a high concentration to a low concentration. So the water moves from the soil because it's at a high concentration, moves into the cell, the root hairs, because it's at a lower concentration through osmosis, and then is pushed up through the xylem. So after it goes into the root hairs and goes into the root cell, it enters the xylem and then moves up through the roots, stem, and leaves. So water on the outside has a high pressure or concentration. It's absorbed through the root hairs through osmosis. It moves from high concentration to low concentration. It enters the cell and then is pushed up through the xylem. So, the xylem. The xylem is vascular tissue that moves water and minerals from the roots to other parts of the plant. So after it goes into the root hairs, after it moves into the cell, it moves into the xylem and moves up from the root hairs to everywhere in the plant. So you can think of it like veins and arteries, right? The xylem moves the water one way up through the plant. Now, minerals sometimes comes with it, but it's mostly water. So water moves through the xylem and it moves to other parts of the plant. And it only moves one way. Then we have the phloem. The phloem moves water and sugar to roots and other parts that need them, right? So remember when we talked about chlorophyll and chloroplasts, the green parts of plants, and that does photosynthesis, and that makes sugar? Well, all the plant needs sugar, just like our whole body needs nutrients, right? Our small intestines absorb the nutrients, but it needs to get to our brain, needs to get to our feet. So our vascular system, our blood, takes those nutrients to where they're needed. Well, the phloem does that. When the plants, for example, a tree's leaves does photosynthesis and makes that sugar, well, that sugar needs to get to the roots, right? It can't just stay in the leaves at the top. So the phloem takes extra water and sugar and moves them to where they're needed, just like the vascular system and the blood cells of humans. The phloem moves water and sugar to the roots and other parts of the plant that need them. So how does water move up very large stems, right? Trees can reach meters upon meters high. So how does the water and even the sugar defy gravity, move meters and meters up into the air in the tree? Well, the water molecules are pushing against each other, kind of like crowded traffic, right? There's so much water that as it builds up, the water is just pushing the water further up. But it's also due to other three forces: cohesion, adhesion, and transpiration. So these are three terms you need to know. There's cohesion, adhesion, and transpiration. So cohesion. This word means to stick together, right? Hesion means to stick. Co means like. So water molecules are attracted to each other. They get close together and they get attracted to each other. So they pull on each other as they're pushed up the plant. So as water molecules keep building up in the roots, they get pushed up because there's a buildup. But the water molecules are also attracted to each other. So as water molecules are building up and pushing on each other, so they're pushing this up, the water molecules higher up are pulling the water molecules up. So you have this push and pull effect, right? As water molecules keep building up, they're attracted to each other. And so as they move up, they pull other molecules up. So water molecules are attracted to each other, and because they're attracted to each other, they pull on each other. And so when molecules of the same kind, like water molecules, are attracted to each other, we call it cohesion, right? Molecules of the same kind that are attracted to each other, it's called cohesion. Adhesion means stick to other. Cohesion means stick together, right? They are the same. You have water molecules, and water molecules, and they're attracted to each other, right? This water molecule is attracted to this water molecule, and it's pulling this water molecule up, and they're both water molecules. Adhesion means to stick to something else. So water is also attracted to other things. So not only is it attracted to itself, it's attracted to other things. And this is what makes things wet. So cohesion, well, if you have a water molecule here, they're attracting other water molecules. Adhesion, the water molecule, is attracted to other things. So when you put water on something, the reason why water sticks to you and stays on you is because the water is attracted to your skin, is attracted to you. So it sticks to you. And that's why things stay wet, right? If water couldn't make things wet, then the water would just slide off you and you wouldn't be wet, right? Because the water wouldn't stay behind. So when something is waterproof, that really means that the water is not attracted to it. So if something's waterproof, water doesn't stick to it because it's not attracted to it. And that's how we make waterproof clothes. We stop the adhesive effect of water by making it out of something that water is not attracted to. So in the plant, the water is also attracted to the walls of the plant, which also cause the water to be pulled up. So the combination of adhesion and cohesion help push or pull the water up. So here, as water is building up, the water pushes the other molecules up, while the molecules above pull on the molecules below it, while also being attracted to the sides of the xylem wall. So the water molecule gets attracted here, which pulls a water molecule up, which is also pushed by another molecule, right? So the water molecule adhesion pulls the water molecule to the side. Cohesion pulls other water molecules together, and cohesion pulls other water molecules together. Adhesion pulls water molecules to the side, and the buildup of water molecules causes the water to be pushed up. So we got this push and pull effect that causes water to move up the plant. This combination of pushing and pulling is called capillary action. And you can see this in effect with if you were to cut a flower and stick it in dyed water. Again, the water is attracted to each other, so as it moves into the plant, the water is attracted to the walls of the inside of the plant, so adhesion, but it also pulls other water molecules up, cohesion, and the buildup of water molecules pushes the water up the plant, and this is called capillary action. So if you place colored water with plants, the colored water is drawn up through the plant because of the adhesion, the cohesion, and the buildup of water pushing the molecules up. Transpiration. So if water just keeps getting pushed up and up and up and up and up, why isn't the top just really wet? Well, transpiration is basically a fancy way of saying evaporation of water from plants. So this usually happens in tree leaves or in the leaves. So when the water gets pushed up because of adhesion, cohesion, and the inevitable pushing up of buildup of water, well, when it reaches the top, eventually it evaporates out. And this is called transpiration. Not evaporation, transpiration. It's evaporation of water through the leaves or through the plant. Right? So instead of having this huge blue amount of water at the top of the plants, they eventually just evaporate out of the plant in a process called transpiration. So water gets pulled through because there's this high concentration of water here, low concentration here. So through osmosis, gets pulled into the roots. Through cohesion, adhesion, and just a buildup of water, right? Water gets pushed and pulled all the way up to the top. And when it reaches the top, it evaporates out through transpiration. So there are things that can affect how fast transpiration happens, right? If it's really hot, water is going to evaporate out of the plant faster, right? So if the leaves get hot, the water leaves the plant faster. So heat affects transpiration. Humidity affects transpiration. So humidity is how much water is in the air. So if there's a lot of water in the air, that means there's a higher concentration of water in the air. And remember, water moves from high concentration, right? High concentration to low concentration. So if there isn't as much of a difference from the inside to outside, if the air is very wet, transpiration will move slower. Leaf cells. Well, leaf cells also need to protect the plant from water loss, right? Sometimes you don't get enough water. You don't want to lose all your water through transpiration or evaporation. So leaf cells can actually control or slow down transpiration by blocking it from escaping. So plant cells and leaf cells have little holes in them, and they can allow transpiration, allow water to leave, but they can also close up and prevent water from leaving so that the plant doesn't lose water too quickly. Because again, plants still need water. And so if the soil starts to run out of water or if it hasn't rained in a while, the plant will then slow down transpiration to make sure that water stays in the plant. And so heat controls how fast transpiration happens, right? The hotter it is, the faster it happens. Humidity affects transpiration. The more water in the air, well, the slower it'll happen. and leaf cells can control the speed of transpiration. So how does transpiration help move water through the plant, right? Well, pressure, right? So as water is leaving the plant, well, there's less pressure here because there's less water, right? Because pressure is an amount of force or energy in a given area. Well, as you fill something up with water, you increase pressure. And the opposite is true. When you decrease the amount of water, you decrease pressure. So you start creating this area of low pressure up at the top of the straw. I'm sorry, at the top of the plant. And so there's low pressure here at the top because water's leaving and water's entering here, so you start creating high pressure. So again, we're moving from high pressure to low pressure and high concentration to low concentration. And so water is pulled up through the plant. Kind of like a straw, right? When you put your mouth onto a straw, you suck the air out. And so you create low pressure in your mouth. And at the bottom of the straw, where the liquid is, well, there's a high pressure. And so the high pressure and the high concentration wants to equal out. So it goes from high to low into your mouth. Well, the plant does the same thing. As liquid is leaving the plant, the pressure drops at the top. And the pressure at the bottom is really high. And so liquid enters the plant and goes up the plant just like a straw. Pushing and pulling. So you may have noticed that there's a lot of pushing and pulling in the plant. The forces of cohesion, adhesion, and transpiration create pushing and pulling forces that move water to where the plants need it to be. Right? So as it enters the plant, the root hairs through osmosis, adhesion and cohesion, right? So the water is attracted to the plant, so it sticks to the plant, moving up the plant. Cohesion causes the water molecules to pull other molecules up the plant. And the buildup of pressure forces the water to be pulled and pushed up the plant. So there's a lot of pushing and pulling that causes the plant to be able to move water up it. So really tall trees just increase that pressure, increase that concentration, increase that transpiration to force water up it so that it can get water to where it's needed to be. So you need to know xylem, phloem, root hairs, osmosis, cohesion, adhesion, and transpiration. Hopefully this was useful, and if you have any questions, I'll see you in class.